storyteller is Brian Spitz, and I also asked him to share a fact with me. And then there was like a trend happening about cats, and I really hate cats, and I'm like, why does everyone love cats? But his fact is that he fosters cats, and he practices medieval archery, but not at the same time.
2 years ago, I was walking home from the subway after work when I got an attack of the worst heartburn I had ever experienced. It was this unbelievable burning sensation right in the center of my chest, like I had swallowed a lump of white-hot iron and it had gotten stuck halfway down. I had been having these episodes for a few days already, on and off, and they always went away after a minute or two. So I just grit my teeth and staggered back to my building. Took the elevator up to the 19th floor, somehow staying on my feet. I lurched back to my apartment where I had a bottle of Tums in the bathroom. I took one and it did absolutely nothing. By this point, I was in agony. I literally collapsed to the floor, sprawled halfway between the bathroom and the front hall. I was sweating through my clothes, gasping for breath. You have never experienced heartburn like this. And then my left arm started hurting, and I figured it out. It was time to call 911. I struggled up from the floor and sat down on the toilet lid, pulled my phone out of my pocket, and dialed. Fire, police, or ambulance? I said I needed an ambulance. Where do you need us? I gave the operator my address. Then she asked what the problem was. I was pretty sure I knew exactly what it was, but I don't like putting conclusions in people's heads, so I just said, I'm having this terrible burning pain in my chest. It feels like heartburn, and my left arm is starting to hurt as well. I'm sure she knew what it was right away. She said she was dispatching the ambulance, and then she stayed on the line with me for another couple of minutes getting details. She asked, is it okay if I hang up now? There was nothing more she could do for me, so I let her go. The next few minutes were kind of surreal. Sirens are a normal part of the background noise of city life. We barely even register them. But they sounded very different when I heard them in the distance and knew that they were coming for me. The firemen got there first. Two big, burly guys burst into my apartment, which ordinarily would not be a good sign. I called out from the bathroom, I'm in here. They pulled me to my feet and walked me over to a chair in my living room, and then started sticking ECG electrodes to my chest. By that point, the paramedics had also arrived, another two guys. One of them introduced himself as Jason, and he took over the operation. It didn't take him long to say, Brian, it looks like you're having a heart attack. That was the first time I heard those words, although they came to define my life for the next 6 months. And you might think that I would have been upset, but actually I was relieved to hear them, knowing that I had guessed right. They packed me up on a stretcher and we were on our way. Now, I'd like to say something about the emergency first responders in this city. They are fantastic. Completely calm, competent, professional. They leave no doubt that they are completely in control of the situation. I never got Jason's last name, but if he's out there, I would very much like him to know how highly I think of him. It's just a short drive from my place to Sunnybrook Hospital. I was lying in the back of the ambulance, eyes closed, gasping in pain. Every so often, Jason would pat me on the shoulder and say, "Everything's gonna be okay. Sunnybrook is the best hospital in the city for this kind of thing." We pulled up at Sunnybrook Emerge, and they brought me inside, though not before I got a blast of freezing cold January air in my face. We've all had experiences of sitting in Emerge for 3 hours, waiting to see a nurse who will tell us, "Go home and put some ice on it." But boy, when you're having a heart attack, they don't make you wait. They brought me right in, took me into a diagnostic room, put me on a bed there. They said they had to prepare the special operating room called the cath lab. Meanwhile, they started asking questions. Do you smoke? Do you drink? And my personal favorite, have you ever done cocaine? The answer to all three is no, by the way. They also asked me to rate the pain on a scale from 1 to 10. I gave it a 7, but there's an analytical part of my brain that never shuts off, even when I'm having a heart attack. And it struck me that I really could have said any number, because they kept asking me over and over, rate the pain from 1 to 10. And I figured what they really wanted to know was whether the pain was increasing or decreasing, which it wasn't. They sprayed nitroglycerin under my tongue, still 7. They injected me with 2 units of morphine, still 7. That, I admit, was disappointing. Morphine has a certain reputation. I felt that it didn't live up to the hype. Finally, the cath lab was ready, and they brought me up to the 3rd floor, wheeled me into a very chilly room filled with machinery. They wheeled my stretcher up next to the operating table, and I had to sort of scooch over onto it. And they also asked me to take off my clothes, which I managed with the help of a team of nurses. The interventional cardiologist, a very brisk, business-like woman, came in and got right to work. I couldn't see anything except the ceiling and machinery, but she narrated for me. She cut into my wrist and inserted a catheter, which she snaked all the way up my arm and into my chest. Or so she said. I didn't feel a thing, except the heart attack. She started checking arteries. The right coronary artery is clear, she said. The left anterior descending artery is 100% blocked. That was a hard thing to hear about my arteries. I felt like she was criticizing me personally. She inflated a balloon inside the artery, unblocking it to about 30%, and suddenly my entire world was pain, which really caught me by surprise, because I had been expecting the pain to decrease, not increase. I started moaning and squirming around. The doctor had to stop what she was doing and say, "Brian, I need you to stop moving." She finished up the angioplasty by implanting a little device called a stent. That's a little wire mesh tube that presses against the artery walls and holds it open. She pulled out the catheter, and within seconds, pain was gone. I cannot describe what a relief that was. From the time the attack started to the end of the procedure, about 2 hours had gone by. It was 2 hours of burning, sweating, throbbing, shooting pain, suddenly gone. I felt great. While the nurses were cleaning up, I said to one of them, "You probably don't get a lot of young guys like me in here." To which she replied, the youngest person she had ever seen get this particular procedure had been 30 years old. I was annoyed, because I was 31. so close to breaking that record. And so, that was it, sort of. They put me on 5 different heart medications, of which I still take 3, and I'll probably be taking those for the rest of my life. I also attended a 6-month cardiac rehab program at Toronto Rehab, where I learned to eat right. I bring salads to work for lunch every day, and they also taught me to exercise several times a day, which I still do, mostly. I'm turning 34 next week, and it's not lost on me that if I lived in a different country with a different healthcare system, I might never have seen my 32nd birthday. Or I might have had to give up my entire life savings to purchase the care that I needed. Canadian healthcare can often feel annoyingly slow and bureaucratic, but when I needed it, it really came through for me. We pay taxes to support this system because we believe, as a nation, that healthcare is a right to which everyone is entitled. So, thank you all for supporting the system that took such good care of me, and thank you for listening.